Good night to the Belizean people at home and abroad. Tonight we bring you our 62nd edition of Belizean Affairs. Hopefully tonight we will help to educate you on matters that is happening in Belize. With that said, I go straight to Mr. Roody Wade, who is sitting virtually with me as well as my cousin for the reading, followed by a prayer.
Thank you, Greg, for that introduction. Thank you very much. And I'll go straight to, as usual, to our reading. Um, Tonight I'll read from Proverbs chapter 25, 1 to 10. It says, "Be not envious of evil men, nor desire to be with them, for their hearts devise violence, and their lips talk of trouble. By wisdom a house is built, and by understanding it is established. By knowledge the rooms are filled with all precious and pleasant riches. A wise man is full of strength, and a man of knowledge enchants with enhance his might. For by wise guidance you can wage your war, and in abundance of counselors there is victory. Wisdom is too high for a fool. In the gate he does not open his mouth. However, plans to do evil will be called a schemer. The diversion of folly is sin, and the scoffer is an abomination to mankind. If you faint in the day of adversity, your strength is small. Rescue those who are being taken away to death. Hold back those who are stumbling to the slaughter. If you say, behold, we cannot know this, does not he who weighs the heart perceive it? Does not he who keeps watch over your soul knows it? And will he not repay man according to his work? My son, said, eat honey, for it is good, and the drippings of the honeycomb are sweet to your taste.
Amen.
Knows that wisdom is such in your soul. If you find it, there will be a future, and your hope will not be cut off. Lie not in wait as a wicked man against the dwelling of the righteous. Do not violence to his home. That's my reading from Proverbs. Leonard?
Amen.
I
Yes,
thank
sir.
you for your reading, Mr. Wade. Go ahead, Mr. Brackett.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I would just like to offer a short prayer for the man. Divine loving Father, as we come before thy presence once more, we pray that thou mayest hear our petition for thy mercies, for thy love, for thy guidance, for thy protection, for strength, and I pray that thou mayest help us to present a good program tonight on behalf of our country and people. May thy holy angels guide and protect us as we proceed. Please bless those people who are in harm's way and who are being hurt for no justifiable reason. Have mercy upon them, O Lord, Father, and be with us now and forever. For we ask these mercies in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Belize. for this lot. Today I feel proud to be Belizean. And every time I walk through the streets, I feel so blessed, so good and so free. And every time my foot touch the beach, I feel so at peace, thanking God for my country. And I don't know how it make you feel when the breeze such a fracas just touches you up, but I'm kinda living in a fantasy. It's the only place that I wanna be. My Belize, my home, land by the sea, beautiful with the trees and valleys, culture rich with a one big family. All the way from the mountains to the keys, your vacation dream is home to me. Belize.
Greg,
Am
I'm
I?
not hearing nothing. Your mic, Greg.
Again, good night to the Belizean people at home and abroad. Tonight, we want to revisit the topic of the People's Constitution. Previously, on one of our shows, we had an open conversation referring to what the Attorney General and the Prime Minister had said when it had came to the ballots from Oceania with the signatures. They had claimed that because the PCC was in motion and that it has in a referendum act that, according to them, it bars the referendum act that we know, and that how the referendum act in the People's Constitution to them seems to have more power. So let me go to the first clip to hear what they had to say.
Different laws at play here. And the Referendum Act and the People's Constitution Act. So, as you will appreciate, the People's Constitution Act also speaks to a referendum, and a referendum after the whole consultation process with respect to the Constitution. Again, I don't want to prejudice any particular discussion or that we are having at Oceania, but suffice it to say that there is an interplay. There's a between both the People's Constitution Act and the Referendum Act. There may be difference of opinions as it relates to how the interplay actually operates. If indeed there is an interplay, you take a firm position that well there is no interplay. But yeah, but so
People at home and abroad, you heard what the Attorney General said. Now let's listen to what the Prime Minister had to say.
I don't think it's a matter of willfully ignoring it, but we felt that since we already have the People's Constitutional Commission ongoing right now, that would be the best place to be able to address it through the PCC, since they were asking even for the amendment of the constitutions.
Now, I go to my virtual host, sitting with me, Mr. Wade and Mr. Brackett. I go to you first, Mr. Wade. The question to you is, do you believe, according to the Prime Minister and the Attorney General, that the PCC is a binding committee?
First of all, I know, first of all, I cannot see, or put my finger on what these guys really want to do with our constitution, right? Um, how come, when these guys want to make laws, right? At the stroke of a pen, they pass all kinds of laws. Now, this Constitution Reform Committee, right, according to the Prime Minister, they are entrusted with all kinds of power, right? So I really don't understand what he really mean to tell the Belizean people. Likewise, the Attorney General, right? So, listening to those tape and the words that are coming out of their mouth, and it's totally different from what the Constitution Reform Committee is doing, right? Totally different. So I'm lost for words there, Mr. Chairman. Right? I'm lost for words.
I thank you for your input. Now I go to Mr. Brackett. Mr. Brackett, let me hear from you so the people at home and abroad can understand what is happening here. Does the People's Constitution Reform referendum trump the present referendum act?
No, it does not. Very straightforward and quickly. Our country can only have one valid constitution at a time. And while somebody might be proposing to make some changes to that valid constitution and or eviscerate that valid constitution, give me a second, Greg. Greg, could you make a short comment or something? Just give me about less than a minute, about 30 seconds.
Back to you, Mr. Wade.
Like I say, Mr. Chairman, that I know a little of these guys' intention, and I could see the road they are going, right? But all these guys are doing since they started this embark on this mission in reforming or change or whatever they're trying to do with the Constitution, right? They're lying to the Belizean people all along because they are not being truthful. Go ahead, I'm Leonard.
I thank you for that.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Wade. Thank you, Greg. Thank you, sir. The present Constitution, the PCC, People's Constitutional Commission, was established with the idea of having an inquiry into whether or not people would like to make changes to their constitution. Why? Because there were some people in high places who had an interest in having some changes made to the constitution. And they wanted to recruit the general populace to be able to help them get those changes done, which they could not do under present circumstance. So for all intents and purposes, they start say, okay, well, we are going around and solicit information from the people. Let the people tell us what they want us to do. That's why we call it the People's Constitution Commission. Initially, it was the Referendum Constitution Reform Commission. But that was exposing the public and telling the public exactly what they were after. So they wanted to change that just out by those elites and some of our power brokers and leaders into becoming or recruiting the public. And that's why I call it the People's Constitution Commission. The bottom line is that they went ahead and drafted, after they don't tell the public a general outline of what they were trying to get done, they went ahead and drafted some documentations under the title of the People's Constitution, the PCC Act, and therefore took it to Congress for them to pass it as an act of Congress. In other words, authorizing it under the current laws. Whatever they did there could not trump the present Constitution in terms of what the referendum requirements are, or the recommend. In other words, they could modify the law, but that wasn't what they intended to do. They pretended that they were co-opting the existing law that was on the book and put it into this authority now that they were granting to this present commission. So then, for all intents and purposes, if that were to be true, which we know that it's not true because I've been explaining this over and over before, but let's presume that what they were attempting to do or trying to do would have been working or should have been considered to be acceptable or all right. That being the case, then the whole referendum act would not be in place. So for right now, for all intents and purposes, we wouldn't have a true referendum act because we have one that is pending under which this present commission is supposed to be operating, which they just empowered them, which was not a full referendum act because it speaks nothing about the laws that govern the elections and all the other things that the referendum act speaks about. So they could not have actually replaced the whole thing. What they did is a sleight of hand and a bamboozling process to target the Constitution as a whole. So they claim that there's a referendum that's going to be required, as we have been informed them before. When they started out and it never seemed like they were interested in doing a referendum, they decided that, okay, then we'll go ahead and have a referendum as part of this thing that they wrote up. But they're pretending now that what they wrote up as the referendum supersedes the existing constitution, when in fact the existing constitution has not been altered to the extent of anything that the present referendum commission is working on. It has not been brought into law or made law. Nothing that they have done so far has gone through the process to become law. They're just in the process right now of collecting information, as Mr. Chanona himself said, and as the document that I have right here in my hand, which I was going to read some parts of it later on, actually says, because I was going to read the part that they referred to as the referendum that they were talking that the Attorney General was trying to conflate with. He is trying to say that the two referendums that he was talking about is one that the existing constitution requires of them to have. If they was going to change the constitution wholesale, they'll have to put it to the public for the public to decide, because they can't do all of that in Congress. That's outside of their boundaries. Now, okay, if all the members of Congress get together, all 31 of them, and write a new constitution and vote for it, except they come to the public through a plebiscite and a referendum, it is not legal, and it holds no weight and cannot replace our current constitution. So then there goes the Prime Minister saying that he was not flaunting the law, but yes, he was flaunting it. And why he's flaunting it is because they have the PCC commission in place that is doing their work to try and figure out how they want to alter the constitution, when in fact nobody yet has decided that that part of the constitution needs to be altered or referendum act. Nothing has been taken to Congress and nothing has been voted on, nothing has been assented to by the Governor General, nothing has been done to replace our present act, because the referendum act covers the work that the Department of Elections and Boundaries is controlled under. So they could not have been actually completing that process. So from the get-go, then the Prime Minister was lying, and the Attorney General lied when he argued against himself in the one same series of statements, in that same interview that he gave, when he said that Something is in the background. Something is in the background
Put your
disturbing.
mic there, Greg.
Okay, I can. Yeah. So when the new attorney general said that there's 2 different referendums, and then he went back to say, well, maybe there's not 2 referendums, there's only 1 referendum, and that 1 referendum is under the jurisdiction of the present PCC. And when the PCC finishes its work, then they're going to issue a referendum, a request for the Governor General to allow them to have a referendum, only and if the Congress finds that it is necessary for them to do, exactly as they stipulated in the PCC Act. So there may not necessarily be a reason for a referendum if Congress, in their own mind, determines that there's no need to have a referendum, because they are currently empowered to make laws. And if any of those laws or changes that the referendum commission comes up with is under the purview of Congress, then Congress could just go ahead and exercise their prerogative and the authority vested in them without having to have a referendum, because from the time they got into office and all the laws that they have put on the book, they have never had a referendum on any of them, which they're entitled to. That's the way the process works. But they're conflating and they're lying because they don't want to be caught, as we are pointing out, that they actually have been doing things incorrectly with devious and nefarious objectives. The objective was never ever to go out and solicit information from people who don't know nothing about the information where they want people to give their answers to. So now then they come around to the idea that they're going to go ahead and educate the people and then come back next year and based on the surveys where they give the people in right now, they want to determine, based on where the people say next year, where they want to put enough in their report to give to the Prime Minister. After the fact now that 18 months have already passed, 8 of those months, they never had nothing going on. They never educate the people. They never do nothing. And the so-called education campaign that they're exercising right now does not amount to a constitution education campaign. It's just a series of presentation of ideas to bamboozle the people into accepting the idea that maybe, yes, we do need to make some changes. They're not teaching the people anything that comes out of the referendum itself. I mean, not referendum, out of the Constitution itself, like we do on our Friday night show and other shows that we have done on this program. We go and we attack particular or specific section of the Constitution and explain that to the people. That's what they should be doing and should have been doing, and not the little bit that they are that the effort that they are doing right now. They should have been doing a massive campaign and a massive effort all over the country. Just like when they want to run for election, they all over the country they spread the manifesto and all. They really teach people something about what for their manifesto. Why don't they put the same level of effort into teaching people about the Constitution, so that when they do come back to the people, people will understand and know exactly what is in the Constitution and really what is it that they want to put in or take out. For right now, the money has already finished. They're asking for additional money. And because the last 8 months on the front end that they never did no education campaign, they're supposed to go back and ask the Prime Minister for an extension. Very likely he will accede to that because they know that the whole process is just a shenanigan. So they will continue playing along with the game. They will give them an extension, maybe on 3 or 6 months at the most, because this thing have to wrap up before the term is up. Let me read a part of the thing where I make comments, but let me just read it out of from half of the papers and then submit, okay?
Mr. Brackett, before you read that,
you're not ready? You're not ready?
before you read that, I would like
go
to
ahead.
say this.
Go
Because
ahead.
what I would want you to read is Section 5 of the People Constitution Act number 22. If you can find that.
That's where I was.
But I don't want you to read it yet. I want you to read it after I make this comment.
Okay, go ahead, sir. That's fine.
To be honest, to the Belizean people at home and abroad, the People's Constitution Act in Section 522 speaks about a referendum that the Attorney General and the Prime Minister was referring to as though it is already passed into law. Now, let me say this to enlighten you as a part of our educational program. That referendum that they are speaking about is non-binding because a constitution, which is the new constitution, has not been passed into law
Exactly.
presently. And secondly, the Referendum Act is a standalone document. The Referendum Act stands alone to protect the Constitution and the fundamental rights of the people.
And Mr. Chairman, it covers a lot of other issues other than what is being
Yes,
discussed
it
here.
does. It covers
So
national
this nonsense could
security.
not have replaced all of that. Was my point.
Right.
Sorry, sir. Sorry.
So now, to prove what the Attorney General and the Prime Minister had said in regards to the People's Constitution Act and the referendum, before I play the clip to prove that they were speaking out of context, Mr. Brackett,
Lying.
can you go ahead and read? Can you go ahead and read Section 5, number 22 of the People's Constitution Act? Just Section 22.
Yeah. 22 reads as follows. A referendum shall be conducted where the National Assembly passes a resolution declaring that the matter stated in the report, whether the Belize Constitution should be repealed and replaced or amended, is of sufficient national importance that it should be submitted to the electors for their view through a referendum. Exactly as I stipulated earlier. Remember when I said in my previous comment that if the House decides that whatever is in that report does not need to be put to a referenda to the people, there will be no referenda. Simple as that. That's what this is saying here. And after I finish comment, I'll reread it again so people could hear it in context and try to remember it and understand it and digest it, because it's important for us to be on top of these matters. We play with a bunch of hyenas and jackals who they try bamboozle with, and they try to take me to the cleaners with their eyes wide open. All because they know that we don't know, but at least some people don't know enough about the Constitution to be able to stop them in their track when they come with their craziness. Let me read it again, please. A referendum shall be conducted where the National Assembly passes a resolution. Okay? So as of right now, if the National Assembly does not pass a resolution stipulating that what is in the report to them is more than what they can handle, then they will just handle what is in the report without the need of a referendum. Is everybody along with me on that point? Everybody get that much? Or what I'm trying to articulate? You could go and read it for yourself by getting a copy of this document, and you'll see I'm not making up words or adding or taking away words. I'm just trying to read it to you and explain it to you. And it's not even in legalese, it's in basic language. It's in basic English language. So now something where you could say, well, you are reading, maybe because you don't know enough laws that maybe you can go over your head or whatever. A basic, simple thing, but let me finish reading the thing. A referendum shall be conducted where the National Assembly passes a resolution declaring that the matter stated in the report, whether the Belize Constitution should be repealed and replaced or amended is of significant national importance, that it should be submitted to the electors for their view through a referendum. What they want to get after requires a referendum. But depending on how they structure the report to the Prime Minister, and the Prime Minister discussed in Cabinet, and before taking it from Cabinet to the House, put it in an enabling legal way for the House to vote on it, for it to become law. If the House does not decide in favor of a referendum, the House will use its vested powers under the present Constitution to amend whatever they need to amend in the Constitution. Because not only do they have a majority, they have a super majority and a super majority. So that means that they have crossed all the thresholds to change just about anything in the Constitution except certain things. Okay? There are certain things that they can't touch. And those are some of the things that they really want to touch, which is what all this haranguing about the present Constitution is all about. They want to get there. They want to reach there. But they're not willing to expose themselves to be charged for seditious activities after having sworn to the present Constitution. To show that their intent was to swear allegiance to the present Constitution, to get the powers assented to them to govern, and then turn around and trash and eviscerate the present Constitution, which in itself is a treacherous act. Mr. Chairman, anything else?
Mr. Brackett, let me say this to you and the people. Let me say this to you and the people. There's two things that is wrong here. The first one is the GG should not have assented power to them. The second thing that is wrong here is national security comes under the people, not the government. So they cannot in the House decide if a referendum should be. With that
that's
said,
what they wrote in the document. That's why the document is inconsistent with our current Constitution. But then they pretend that because they pass it, it should be accepted. You know?
To hear what you want to hear, let's play the clip for clarity.
Persons that represents a cross-section of our nation, what it is that we have been tasked to do. And the main issue that the PCC has taken on board is that before we can consult with Belizeans on what they would want to repeal or amend or change in their constitution, should first begin with, do we know what is in this document? And so the starting point would be awareness and education. So from June to, sounds like the hurricane season, June to November, but from June to December 15th or beyond, 2023, the PCC has chosen its approach to this document by launching what we call public outreach campaign, which is what we're doing here tonight. And this is what we're doing in other areas. And even in the diaspora, we have Zone 5, which is talking to the Belizeans who live in the diaspora. So it's a comprehensive approach to try to engage the people of Belize at home and abroad on what we're doing. So this awareness campaign is of critical importance. Next year, God willing, we come back into the communities, having heard what you will probably be expressing tonight, how you will respond to the citizens survey, and maybe questions and concerns you have, to consult with you. So tonight...
No.
Goodness.
It speaks for itself. Mr. Chanona, the chairman, expressively said what their job is to do, which is far outside of what the Attorney General and the Prime Minister had said. Mr.
because
Wade,
they're
let me hear your
blind.
Brother,
input.
my
Refuse to
brother,
lie.
like I have been saying all along, right? I've been saying all along, what is it that these people want the Belizean people to? When I say these people, the chairman of that committee and the senior administration, what is it that they want the people to do or to know? To do or to know, right? They bring in all kinds of scenario to the people. When they first started, gentlemen, they started about, yes, know your rights. Want to change it, right? Know your rights.
Because the big banner,
That
big,
yes,
big banner.
and
The
now
small letters
they
at the
want
bottom.
to they have they want two constitutions, seems like, and now they don't want they want to change this, and now they want to just consult the people. But before they do that, if you listen to this man, before they do that, so what they have to consult the, so what are they doing now? So what are, no, they say fool the talk, but I not everybody with a fool to listen, right? At least I don't know a fool, and I listen very carefully to these guys, how they tell on themselves. Like you always says, Greg, they tell on themselves, right? So now, here you have a prime minister, Mr. Briceño, say, well, you know what? He ain't give these people 6 more months. That came out of that man's mouth. A mouth that never tells the truth to the Belizean people, right? So
Unfortunately.
you could take that any way on the one to take it. Anyway, that's my opinion. Now, you hear this man now. He says he's going back to the people next year. Next year now. He ain't do that in 6 months, and 6 months is running from 2 months ago when this man said he gave this Constitution Committee 6 more months to come back to him with the message he sent them out with, right? They have to come back to him. Then he will go to his minions in the house and sit and make his decision what the hell he wants to do with our Constitution, right? But we have said this before. They're using this consultation, big word, you know. Who goes to these meetings? 10 people, 5 people, 6 people. And the word everybody, Mr. Prime Minister and Mr. Chanona.
You got
what it means to you, Mr. Briceño, and your people, I don't know. But to people, most people who are stupid, everybody means everybody, right? Now, watch how no they talk, man. I think this thing played out already, right? It's so stupid what no they do. You could have done it another way, right? Why don't you just hold a referendum? Do Belizean want? Plain and simple, because all this crap that these people are going about with their mouth full of their assignment, and some of them miss their assignment because they take what the Mr. Briceño is sending them to do. They turn it and twist it, and you have a panel that has no idea what is the Constitution, no idea at all, right?
And they're teaching it or trying
to make
teach
these
it.
people teachers of the Constitution all of a sudden. These panelists, who make them? They make themselves, right? So people, are we playing along with these shenanigans that these people are doing, man? So my thing is with bottom line is, right, what this Briceño administration should have done, maybe it was in the pipeline from with the UDP, you know, right? Because they are all one, right? Well, anyway, we will deal with what we have now. Why don't they come to the Belizean people, for instance? Hey, we'll have a referendum, and this is what we want to do. We want to turn Belize into a republic, and we want to get rid of the Governor General, and we want to shiver ties from the British. There's 3 things here that's very important to these guys. And then there we'll have our new identity. When I say that didn't come from me, no, that came from one of the PUP ministers.
Mr. Wade, they're not men and women enough to face the music or to come forward and tell us the truth. They prefer to connive us into finding out that after the fact What they always wanted was to do is what we helped them to do, but it's too late to stop it from getting done or having it done.
So,
Thank you very much, sir.
so like I say, right?
Man.
You know, I'm tired of these people, past and present, bamboozles us, right? And take us for fools. Because this so-called consultation that they are going about, and you hear them out of their own mouth, the venom. I call it venom, right? You see where the Tommy Goff bite you with? For who don't know what they talk about? They talk about that kind of venom, right? Because the venom where they spit out, well, a lot of we could get cured, but majority of we will not be able to receive the antidote, right? Now, like I say, they should have come to the Belizean people and tell them exactly what they want to do, because they know what they want to do. Some of us might have an idea of what, like for instance, all three of us have an idea of what they want to do, right?
And we are not the only one.
And I tell you what, right? This crap is played out. And another thing that is so stupid for them to talk, oh yeah, Zone 5, the diaspora. Why mentioning the diaspora when you know darn well that you don't have no respect for the diaspora? I don't know what, I don't go there, we don't know hands out. But that is just to say, well, you know what? My people, we had consulted 100,000 people in the diaspora, right? And they are with us. And we have consulted everybody in Belize, right? And they are with us. So this is what we are going to do. We are going to shiver ties from the British, right? We are going to get rid of the Governor General, and we are going to turn Belize into a republic. That's my interpretation of their venom, right? They have done it before to get what they want. They've done it with the ICJ. You see what Dean Barrow and his administration did to us. He found a way to disenfranchise a lot of us that couldn't have, because of the trickery they did just to get what they wanted. That yes to the ICJ, right? And you see when Belmopan became a city, you know how many people voted for education out there who do not know. I was part of that shenanigans there. You know how much people voted for, went to the town hall and voted for Belmopan to become a city? 250, right? And it wasn't even Belmopanese. But what they do, they say, yeah, the people voted. Then they endorse Mr. Chonono as the first mayor of Belmopan City. I'm just trying to educate one lot of, right? And I'm just trying to tell on a factual that these people will get what they want at the end of the day, right? But like I say, I'm sorry for the ones that won't be able to afford that antidote, right? Of that venom that they're going to inflict on you all, on us all then, right? So, like I say, Mr. Chairman, he says that he gave them 6 more months to come back with a report to him. That's what that didn't come out of my mouth, come out of his whatever, right? So, like I say, we need to wake up, and we keep educating the people through our medium, and we try to show them, right? And Greg, thank you for queuing up these clips to show what comes out of these people's mouth, right?
Amen.
A lot of things that they right? We talk real, right? And we show no, because it's not right what these people are doing, man. It's not right. There's a right way and a wrong way, right? And the way they are doing about it is the wrong way, right? Do I want Belize to become a republic? Hell no. Do I want my constitution to change? Hell no. I want it to strengthen, yes. Like I said in previous shows. One, we want elected senators. Two, enshrine in the constitution that they must pass UNCAC. Must. The word must. Right? So, I don't know about John Public out there, but I'm saying about me. There's nothing wrong with my constitution. I've been living with for decades, right? There's nothing wrong with it. We just need to enforce it, right? So, like I said, these people have their agenda, and we keep saying it and keep saying it, and it will be proven shortly. But thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I thank you for your input, Mr. Wade. Mr. Brackett, let me hear your short opinion on what I'm about to say. At first, the present government had mentioned that they will amend the constitution to get the new constitution because they had the super majority. Now, I will point out to you so you can be aware of how they are trying to get around that. They are trying to get around it by coming to the people, and you see that is how they end up with Section 22, with Section 522 of the People's Constitution Act, where it says if they decide a referendum to take place. So when that was mentioned in that way, it's simply saying that is another way to get around the amending that they first threw out there that they wanted to do. Let me hear
Exactly.
your short opinion on that before we go to
It's
our
just
next
like what I
segment.
said just before that, guys. Just like what I say,
Yeah.
right? What they did when they wanted a yes to the ICJ. They find a way. They disenfranchise thousands of people, right? Like you just rightfully said. Bring this back to what I said. Go ahead. Go. Sorry about that, right? Go ahead. Leonard. Sorry about that.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to be able to, in reply to your question, I would like their document to provide the answer. If you allow me to read section 23(1), 23(1) and a few other small pieces. 23(1) reads as follows: the commission shall stand dissolved. Paragraph A, upon submission of the report to the Prime Minister in accordance with section 6(1)(b) of this document, or paragraph B, on the expiration of the term of the commission or any extension of the term, whichever occurs first. Section 2, subsection 2 reads, it says, subject to subsection 3, the Secretariat and all staff of the Secretariat, including any technical committee, if not dissolved earlier, consultants, advisors, or other experts established or employed by the Commission shall cease to function upon the dissolution of the Commission. So once that document is submitted to the Prime Minister, the Commission's work is finished. Once they get the extension and they finish and they submit that, whatever they submit to the Prime Minister, their work is finished, and the other people who are working on their behalf will remain under the minister's portfolio to wrap up or clean up or do whatever cabinet wishes to do with that report. So those other people will be available to cabinet, while the commission thought that their work would have been finished and nothing else would have been done to their work, or no adjustments would have been done. I've been telling them from before they became a member of the commission that that would have been the outcome. It's not in writing, in their own writing here. Okay? Once the commission ceases to exist, if the cabinet needs to or chooses to make any changes before taking it for a final vote, those same members that I just listed are the ones that I spoke about earlier when I said that cabinet will have the opportunity to mold this process malleable, make it malleable, and get them draft people and then technical people to work on it,
Mr.
which
Brackett,
needs to be done before they carry it to the House to be passed into law. Yes, sir.
Mr. Brackett,
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
my question to you is, have you visualized how they have moved away from using the word amending it to now trying to get it passed through the People's Constitution Act by giving themselves power when it comes to national security. Because under Section 522, if you listen to what you have read, they are giving themselves the power and taking away national security from the people. In other words, the government is saying national security is in our hands because we will decide if we should take it to a referendum. When vice versa to that, the people is the one who is supposed to do that.
Just the opposite.
With that said, gentlemen, that has come to the first segment of our show. So let's go to this for a second.
If you are a true Belizean, let's have a safe and peaceful celebration. Long live Belize! September 21st, it's our Independence Day. Together we unite as one Belizean family. Belize is our joy. We must cherish it. Belize is our joy. We must cherish it. Anywhere I go, I'm proud of my country. Anywhere I go, I'm proud of my country. There's no place like Belize. You better believe it. There's no place like Belize. You better believe it. Happy birthday, Belize. May God bless you on your day. Belize is beautiful. Belize is in my heart. From north to south, we will celebrate. From east to west, let's all celebrate. Long live Belize. Que viva Belize. Long
Welcome back again, gentlemen. In this segment, I want to play a clip for you about a question a young man had asked in one of these meetings that was held. And I want you to listen carefully, as well as the people at home and abroad, to the question the young man had asked.
Yes, here's a young man. Yeah. Hold on.
Good night, good night. So I have this concern. My name is Leonard Flores, by the way. In regards to some parcels of land that we have that is right around the bend, going to the Capitol Hill area right here, or you can go through to my refuge road, right? These are the parcels of land that are there. They were given out about probably some time 11 to 15 years now ago. I had managed to purchase one from an individual, right? So yeah, so there's about 26 parcels of land that is there. I had cleaned mines out and everything, and seems like the village council members or whosoever was in charge, they managed to push a road there, but they had dashed the dirts and stuff on the lands, as you can see over to the left hand side. So the one in red is actually my parcel of land, right? I had reached out to the chairman about a year and a half to probably 2 years ago in regards to it, because I had purchased this land about 3 years ago. I had also asked them to properly push the roads because some of the landowners, they want to build, right? So I recently took the initiative of going into lands, getting these maps, getting the parcels owners and stuff, trying to, get everybody together to rally this up so that they can actually, properly push the roads. Let's get water, light there so the young people, can build and so forth, right? As I mentioned, they had, hash up the road, dashing dirt over the left parts of the lands, the parcels, right? So I can no longer find my front peg and so forth. So I am wondering, is that right for them to just do that? And what does it take for them to, try to develop the area? Because as mentioned, it had been there for.
Gentlemen and people at home and abroad, you have heard the question that the young man was asking of the People's Constitution Commission. Now, after he had asked that question, and I want you to take good note of this, because as we all know, we have a constitution that is intact, that carries our fundamental rights, that has been enshrined in it in the preamble from 1981 to present. Our constitution was written by our forefathers who stipulated that it cannot be written out of existence. So, to the first part of his question, I want you to listen to what this young lady had to say when she spoke about fundamental rights.
Some time now.
Good night, Deandra, right? I just wanted to clarify for me what exactly is your concern, that you have a property, you've been given this property, and the village council cleared the area, or cleared an area for a road?
So, I wouldn't necessarily say clear because it was like half, there was big stone all around. Then from where they pushed the road, the left side, because it's like 13 parcels over the left, 13 over the right. So the parcels to the left-hand side, they shove all the dirt in, I would say about 5 to 10 foot in those parcels. So before they had tried to shove any road, right, my pegs were already there, and now I can't even find them, right? Secondly, my next question was, what is it that we have to do to try to have them really, shove the roads properly and get, light and water over that side?
Sorry, I'll have to ask you to repeat your name.
DeAndre.
DeAndre, okay. So it's to answer your question, you will probably be disappointed with the answer, because we want to link the concern with the Constitution. So property, if we talk general, the Constitution provides a right to property, and I would just let me preface the rest of my commentary by speaking about the rights and fundamental freedoms. So when we hear about the rights and fundamental freedoms in the Constitution, it's about 16 of them listed, and the idea for that part of the Constitution is because you have the state, which comprise the population, the boundaries of Belize, and the government has powers. You know, it has the police power, the military power, the power to pass laws. It has immense powers. And so you have these rights that the Constitution spell out that the government must uphold. So that they can't just use their powers in any arbitrary way. So that's the idea of the fundamental rights and freedom. It's rights and freedom vis-a-vis the government that has all this power. So one of the rights in there is the right for people to enjoy their property. And the rights are usually stated in a like a general way, and the details come with circumstances. So when right to property, for example, I'm not answering your specific situation, but hypothetically, the government might need property for some public purpose, some public interest. And so there's the right of this person to own property, and that will be balanced with the powers of the state to acquire private property because it needs it for some public purpose. But like, for example, building a road. And of course, when the government, to exercise that power that they have, they will have to follow certain procedures and certain steps. Your situation probably is not it's probably the village council that, I don't know, like I said, I can't answer your specific circumstances, but to try and tie your concern with the Constitution, there's this right to property. It's not an absolute right. None of the rights in the Constitution are absolute. They have to be balanced with other needs and other concerns. So with the right to property, one thing that can tilt that to affect your right is the state might need land for some public purpose. And when it exercises that power, it can't still exercise it arbitrarily. It has to follow certain steps and certain procedures and certain rules. If I could tie your concern again back to the Constitution establishes what the public service, the outline of the public service. And the public service is they talk about in those clips, the judiciary, the executive, and the legislature. But an equally important part, and I'm sure all of you experience interactions with the public service for whatever it is. Your birth paper, you apply for a piece of land, the hospitals, the police. So every day we interact with the public service, and we fail to remember that that's an important feature of the state, feature of the country, because the persons who work in that public service should be able to provide quality service to the people of Belize. And again, to your circumstances, like I said, I'm not sure if it's the village council. It's probably something that the village did. But your ability to get information, you said you got maps, you got, again, that comes out of, that's where the public service comes in important, because then they can provide you information, and maybe you can, go to some department and maybe ask them for some information that might help you get to to deal with what is your situation. But I can't answer your specific, tell you what to do, but I'm just trying to link your comment to the Constitution.
Could I, DeAndre?
Now, gentlemen, this young lady has just said that your fundamental rights from section 3 to 19 that is protected by section 20 and the judicial review is not absolute.
And are enshrined, by the way.
Let me ask you this question. Is it not true that your fundamental rights is not negotiable or debatable?
It's not. Fundamental rights is your fundamental rights, right? Your right to life, your right to free speech, your right to assemble, right? That's not debatable. Um, that and many more, right? So as far as if you listen to the concern of the gentleman, based on my experience and my knowledge, that has nothing to do with the constitution. It's a village problem, village council problem, along with the chairman and the area representative, right? And when you hear the amount of lots that they subdivide, and it should have had a proper infrastructure in place. When you do those distribution of land, they should have had streets already demarcated. All the Bulusa have to do is come and push it, right? And so there's a lot of things there that went wrong, right? But has nothing to do with the man rights, and it has nothing to do with the constitution. And she's trying to say, well, like your rights is not absolute, which is, I think, it's hogwash, right? As for me, nothing the lady says makes sense. You know, like I say, these are the kinds of things that not ought to be happening in this so-called Constitution Reform Committee, right? I just say one more thing. Another gentleman stood up and talked about the good work his area representative is doing. Has nothing to do with the Constitution, and he was bigging up his area representative Julius Espat. That's why he called his name, and kudos to him. So to me, it was just a political charade, right? I'm talking about what had happened. I think either after that young man spoke on his lap or before, right? So has nothing to do with the Constitution, right? And like I say, they are only misinforming the people, bamboozling and playing out time just to achieve their agenda, right? That's like I say, the panelists up there, in my humble opinion, due respect to all of them, has no knowledge of the Constitution. That's my take on that. But they are the
I thank
ones
you.
they are the ones there sitting educating the people on the Constitution, right? So I
I
say,
thank you for that, Mr. Wade. Mr. Brackett, I
Yes,
want
sir.
to hear from you
Uh,
and the question that I had asked Mr. Wade. Before you proceed, the question is, and I only want to hear you and the said question, is your fundamental right a given right or is it absolute? Meaning the government can trample on it as they want to.
the reason why it is called a fundamental right and or your basic civil right or your inalienable right is because it's not for debate and it's not supposed to be subject to any arbitrary and capricious actions on the part of the government to derogate those rights. When they say that it's not absolute, it's because they're trying to condition the mind of the people to believe that if the government chooses to abrogate your rights, then the government have the power and the authority to be able to do so. Whether they do so capriciously or whether they do so with justifiable reasons in terms of an emergency declared or otherwise, it is just a cover for the poor or small man to have to sit and take what the government dishes out, when in fact the government is forbidden to alter, to derogate. As a matter of fact, the government cannot tamper with your rights unless they ask you to give them permission to do so, first and foremost. That is why it is required of them that whenever they want to trample on anybody's right or the public's rights, they are mandated to have a plebiscite, a referendum, which is why that particular section of the law is stipulated as a complete section unto itself, to guard against any such behavior by the powers of the government, as the young lady was trying to intimate earlier. Yes, the government have a need for community lands or whatever, and therefore they can come and negotiate with you to have you give them back piece of land. But that's not what happened in this young man's case. In this young man's case, the lots were being
Mr.
subdivided
Brackett,
already.
Mr. Brackett,
Yes, just a
I
second, just a
asked
second.
you
Wait,
only
Greg.
to comment.
Yes,
There's a reason for that. I
yes.
wanted you
Okay,
to
okay.
comment solely on the question that was asked. With that said, can you go to section 17 of the Constitution for me? Let me say this in regards to what you was about to say, and I want the people at home and abroad to understand. The only time your fundamental right is absolute is when you violate them by yourself, meaning you commit an offense either criminally or vocally as an assault or a battery. That is when your rights is absolute. It can be taken away from you. Now, with that said, I would like to go to a clip to hear what the chairman of the PCC Commission had said in regards to the young man's question. And I want the public at home and abroad to hear how the chairman within himself is speaking out of context. Mr. Brackett, have you found section 17?
Yeah, I have it available when you're ready.
Okay, let's go to the clip.
But I'm just trying to link your comment to the Constitution.
Could I, Leonard? I think the point you raise is very, very, very important, and I want to thank you for raising that. There's a section B in the preamble. You heard the speaker speak about the preamble, which is the supremacy clause. And at B it says that the people of Belize shall affirm and respect the principles of social justice, and therefore believe that the operation of the economic system must result in the material resources of the community, which is the land, material resources of the community, being so distributed so as to subserve the common good, the material resources of the community. So you hit right on the head a nail that drives home the very point that this section of the Constitution is saying. You have, the people of Belize is saying, you have, the Constitution must respect that the material resources of the community should be distributed in such a way to subserve the common good. Now you're saying you have an issue and it's not being addressed. Well, let me take you to another point. 2 points. When an ordinary man like you, a working man, feels that your constitutional right is being, you heard Mr. Usher say, abrogated, or somebody is planning to take it away, you can appeal to the court. How does the ordinary Belizean afford the court? Should your constitution not have an aspirational right for legal aid? Because what it is saying, there is the legislature, there is the executive, and there is the judiciary that keeps them in check. But how does an ordinary Belizean afford the court? Unless we put something in here to say that your right to legal aid and representation should be a constitutional right. I'll say the third thing. Having served as mayor of Belmopan, 2000 to 2006. The then mayor of Belize City, he committed suicide very tragically, Mayor David Fonseca. Championed that the Constitution of Belize should enshrine a very area that you have addressed. Do you know that this book does not mention any municipal authority, no village council? It holds the executive as the representatives of the people, and here it is, you have an issue with your village council, and this book.
But I'm just trying to link your comment to the Constitution.
Could I, DeAndre? I think the point you raise is very, very, very important, and I want to thank you for raising that. There's a section B in the preamble. You heard the speaker speak about the preamble, which is the supremacy clause. And at B it says that the people of Belize shall affirm and respect the principles of social justice, and therefore believe that the operation of the economic system must result in the material resources of the community, which is the land, material resources of the community, being so distributed so as to subserve the common good, the material resources of the community. So you hit right on the head a nail that drives home the very point that this section of the Constitution is saying. You have, the people of Belize is saying, you have, the Constitution must respect that the material resources of the community should be distributed in such a way to subserve the common good. Now you're saying you have an issue and it's not being addressed. Well, let me take you to another point. 2 points. When an ordinary man like you, a working man, feels that your constitutional right is being, you heard Mr. Usher say, abrogated, or somebody is planning to take it away, you can appeal to the court. How does the ordinary Belizean afford the court? Should your constitution not have an aspirational right for legal aid? Because what it is saying, there is the legislature, there is the executive, and there is the judiciary that keeps them in check. But how does an ordinary Belizean afford the court? Unless we put something in here to say that your right to legal aid and representation should be a constitutional right. I'll say the third thing. Having served as mayor of Bemopan, 2000 to 2006, the then mayor of Belize City, he committed suicide very tragically, Mayor David Fonseca. Championed that the Constitution of Belize should enshrine a very area that you have addressed. Do you know that this book does not mention any municipal authority, no village council? It holds the executive as the representatives of the people, and here it is, you have an issue with your village council, and this book has no mention of it. Next year, March, we go to the polls to elect city councils and village councils and town councils, yet the very document that is supposed to govern their accountability for your taxes and for your administration of your land is not in here. Should it not be? So I want to thank you, DeAndre, for bringing up that very, very important point, because it would seem to me that your very fundamental right as enshrined in B in the preamble is being violated. But you are an ordinary man, alone against Rome. Where do you go for redress? And I think that is a point that we are going to look when we sit down in our thematic committees, to take a question like what you have and to see how, as Commissioner Nicola Shaw mentioned, how can that be addressed in this constitution?
Mr. Wade, as I said before, time and time over, this story is discriminative. Did you hear how this chairman discriminates against this young man by saying and speaking about if he can afford to go to court to fight for his right? I hope you was listening, because this is the same phrase that was used about the people on the south side, specifying they don't need a passport. So it seems to me
Thank you.
that all these individuals who represent the government is very discriminative. So with that said, Mr. Wade, I want to hear you on that part very quickly.
So right on that, Greg, I'm not going to comment much on that, because you said it right on the head, right? You hit the nail, like how he said, hit the nail right on the head. They're very discriminative, right? And they're trying to separate people, put them in different class. But my message, and shortly, to the chairman of that committee there, that not to try and find how they could get legal aid and enshrine that in the Constitution. The other way around, enshrine in the Constitution that they shouldn't be derogating that right, period. Right? So to avoid this ordinary man, like how he's, I just will rephrase, this ordinary man and ordinary people from going through that turmoil that he had, that scenario he had painted there. Enshrined in the Constitution that it shouldn't reach that far, right? That shouldn't happen, right? It shouldn't happen none at all. Once it happened, should that happen, it should be null and void, right? I mean, shouldn't happen, right? So that's to show you, like you said, Greg, how they treat the ordinary man, right? And the ordinary Belizean, it's like they class. We set in different classes in this country, right? That's how the system have us. That's how the PUP system and the UDP system have us. They see us in different levels, right? Do the same crime, we do the same crime, but some are penalized for that same crime more than others. Same crime, same murder. I'm just going to generalize it. We commit the same murder, but because we are the what you call it, the common man, because we are being penalized more than them who are supremacy, right? Who are privileged.
Remember they're making a law. Remember Mr. Musa come up and say they make law make some people get penalized more than others.
Exactly. That's just to show you, right? So those of us who listen and think that we are against PUP or against you, no, we are just talking truth, right? And how our basic rights are being slowly taken away from us, right? And because we are common people can't afford an attorney and can't. That's why they do it, right? He mentioned it. He said it, right? So,
no, Mr. Wade. Mr. Wade. what he said was not only discriminative but ludicrous, because we know about 95%, maybe 98% of Belizean does not read the Constitution. And here they are supposed to be educating the people on the Constitution. But you can see he got discriminative. And these are the same individuals that can't afford to represent themselves. They want to go to
Well,
achieve their ideas.
exactly. Don't you
Now,
think,
how
just
ludicrous.
quickly, don't you think he should have been telling him that, your rights have been derogated and they shouldn't do that? Period. They shouldn't do. But you see the whole
Mr. Chairman,
jig on that, man.
Mr.
Anyway.
Chairman, we're at
Go ahead,
126. We're at 126 right now,
Right.
and I just want to chip in for a
Go ahead.
moment.
Right. No,
before the time-
firstly,
I'm done.
because
I'm done.
yeah, but I had gotten
Mr.
cut off. Wait. My system had got cut off a
I
while back.
noticed. Yeah, I noticed.
I wasn't available, and I had to rectify something. But anyhow, time to run and get off of that.
right. Can you
What
go
actually
ahead
happened is
and
that these
read?
people, the people at that particular meeting, when the young man asked the question, none of them addressed the young man's question, and then they both had disclaimers, but they wanted to force the young man question into what their concern is to try and make amendments to the Constitution. The point of the young man's question should have been answered easily. He told him he already got his documents that shows where his markers are, but that they covered up his marker by bulldozing the material over his marker. All he is asking for is, who does he need to go to have that matter addressed, or whether or not he has to do it out of his own pocket. A surveyor has to come in and find those pegs or measure up the area and put in new pegs if they ripped up the pegs when they were doing the grader work. In the first instance, there's a problem that I could perceive from what the young man has said, that the grader should not have been that close to the young man's property line to start with. Every road that goes in has to have a certain amount of width and a certain amount of shoulder. So whatever material was graded off of the road on both sides in order to give it the leaning or the angle for the water to drain off from the middle of the road to the side of the road to the gutter.
Mr.
Should have
Brackett,
had. Wait, just a minute.
Then-
I'm explaining something that is germane to the general public that needs to be clarified for their benefit. The young man is not the only person that had that problem or may or will have that problem. Somebody needs to go there, and if it's the chairman or the village council that send their one equipment in there, or if it's the public work department that send equipment in there, whoever went in there and did that work violated that young man's property rights. Somebody needs to take care of it, was the point that the young man was trying to solicit from them. Who and where to go to. They're going around circle and answering all kind of and telling the young man a whole lot of other stuff that had nothing to do with the young man's concern.
Mr. Brackett,
Amen to that.
I use that for my closing because we're at 128.
I ask you
129.
to find section 17. I will give up the time because I wanted to prove how the chairman himself does not know the Constitution. Because what he's speaking about is already in the Constitution. Can you kindly read that for me?
Yes, sir. Belize Constitution, Cap 4, Section 17, subsection 1. No property of any description shall be compulsory taken possession of, and no interest in or right over property of any description shall be compulsory acquired except by or under a law that allows for the following criteria, and it lists there section A, section B, subsection 1, 2, and 3, and also 4, before you go to the other section, main section. But
No.
the bottom, go ahead, Greg.
What that is simply stating, And I want the people at home and abroad to know that if the government wants to acquire your private property for public use, a road, etc., they must pay you redress. That is already in the Constitution. So what the chairman was speaking about is ludicrous. It is already in our Constitution.
He's trying to justify
Amen to that.
making changes to the current constitution. He understands his assignment. The young man does not. And we know what they're talking about when they say about understanding assignments.
Exactly.
With that said, I would like to say good night to the people at home and abroad. Thank you for tuning in to our 62nd edition of Belizean Affair. Hopefully, you will join us again Wednesday at the same time to tune in to our 63rd edition. With that, I would like to say good night.